Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined as always by my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Pretty decent sized slate for you guys starting the week off tonight on Monday, the 22nd. As always, if you need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head over to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those local listings. Jump into those comments for us tonight. Like and subscribe to the video and page, and we will get into those lines right now. Nate, let's go ahead and give everybody what we got.
Yes, sir. First game up is the Kings -4 at the Cavs. Thunder +2.5 at Wolves. We have the Hornets +5 at Spurs. Keep in mind they just lost LaMelo Ball for the season. Jazz -9 at Bulls. Rudy Gobert is apparently 50-50 to play tonight. Raptors -8.5 at the struggling Rockets. The Celtics are +2 at Grizzlies. Kemba Walker sitting on their back-to-back. Pacers are +5.5 at the Bucks, who are expected to be without Giannis tonight. And the Hot Hawks +6.5 at Clippers. So, Josh, what's your best bet there looking at those games?
Yeah, I like a couple games a lot, but I'm going to start with that Milwaukee-Indiana game and try to find some way to take advantage of Giannis sitting. The Bucks are still a really good team, at least as good as Indiana without him, to be honest. But right now I think Indiana is trending in the right direction. They've needed another guard in the backcourt with Malcolm Brogdon. That's why they had Victor Oladipo, and that's why they now have Karis LeVert, who's finally making his way back from a pretty serious injury. And Indy plays much better on the road. They're 14-7, and like I mentioned, their offense has seen a nice big spike with Karis LeVert, specifically also Malcolm Brogdon, really upping his efficiency and his numbers since in the 5 games since Karis LeVert's been back. They're 4-1 against the spread in that time, and like I said, their offensive rating as a team has improved to about 116. So I'm starting with the over here, even without Giannis. It actually helps Indiana, who scores more points down low. And the Bucks are really good in defensive paint defense with Brook Lopez and Giannis in, but without Giannis there to help slow down some of those guys, I think Karis LeVert and Malcolm Brogdon can get into the lane, and then you can see DeMontis finishing at the rim a lot better. So I'm looking at the over there. I'm even going to tease up. I think that line of about 10.5 or so, 9.5 in a lot of places that you can still find it. And get that maybe up to about 14.5 with a tease on that Bulls game that I'll talk about in a little bit. But either way, I still feel pretty good about over 229 points in that game. And then I'm even with that 10.5 point spread, I'd keep it there and take the Pacers as well.
Yeah, no, I love the over first and foremost. I was thinking about the Bucks based on recent history. Then I saw Giannis is probably out. I'm a little sketchy on the spread, but I would still take them money line and over parlay. You can get about +170 on that. Look, the Bucks have just dominated this matchup. They've won and covered in 9 straight home games against the Pacers by 18 points per game. They're outscoring them. They've won 26 of their last 27 against division opponents at home, and won 11 of their last 12 overall. They're the top team in terms of pace. They are 16-9 against the over after a win. And so what I look for them to do without Giannis is spread it out more, maybe even go faster in terms of pace. And they're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to get more looks for Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis on the perimeter. Dante DiVincenzo is going to attack the rim as kind of that poor man's Giannis in transition for them. And I think they can definitely keep their points flowing, which they have in the past. They are averaging 114.6. When Giannis sits, that's about 20 games over the last 3 seasons. That's still a pretty healthy total. And as you mentioned, Indy has been ramping up their scoring. They've gone over 11 of their last 15. So, yes, definitely still love that points. Love the points in that game. So, and looking at on Friday, we went with the Spurs against the bad Eastern Conference team, right? That was our most confident pick. Paid off, picking up right where we left off. The Spurs host the Charlotte Hornets, who were struggling even before they lost their engine. LaMelo Ball done for the season. Sadly, that really does open up the Rookie of the Year conversation, though. They're also without Cody Zeller tonight. It's going to be harder to match up against Jakob Poeltl down there. And Terry Rozier's supposed to carry the load, but he's hobbled a bit by a hip injury. So in their last 4 games, the Hornets have the worst net rating in the NBA. They failed to cover it in 5 straight against winning teams. And as we mentioned Friday, the Spurs eat it up against bad teams. 15-7 straight up against losing teams, and they are 10-0 against any Eastern Conference team not from Brooklyn or Philadelphia. That is including the spread, 10-0 against the spread, and won 12 of their last 13 home games against these Hornets. I just don't see where the points are going to come from the Hornets against the Spurs team that's defending the 3-point line well and is the best in terms of limiting free throw attempts in the league.
Yeah. And it started out scary, that Spurs game on Friday. They came back against the Cavs and managed to cover that nice small spread. And I think that's the exact same thing we're looking for here. Still, it's much too small of a spread with LaMelo out and a much different Hornets team that you're going to see than what you've seen recently with them for sure. Another game, Nate, I think I'm going to continue to look to take advantage of Utah right now after they've been showing a lot of weakness coming back from the break. Their defense against a three-point their 3-point defense has been, one of their strengths, both shooting and guarding the three. And that's been what's struggling the most. They're allowing teams to shoot almost 40% from three since the break. And you've got a Bulls team that's been pulling really well from three. And really, they're on a nice upswing when you look at who they've gotten back and what their lineup looks like right now. They've got a starting five of Markkanen, Satoransky, Young, Levine, and then Patrick Williams, the young rook there. And when in the last 5 games since they've been able to be this, healthy enough to have that starting lineup, they've got a 10-point differential in terms of points per game over their opponents on those 5. And those 5 have shown that they can really hold their own in about 112 possessions this year. They're also about plus 10. So I think it's a big enough sample to show how good they are. And then the Bulls as a team, they're 3-1 against the spread when they're home dogs, when they have a rest disadvantage. It's actually a peculiar number that you're continuing to see in the NBA overall this year. Home dogs with a rest disadvantage are about 28-17 against the spread. It's a pretty impressive number. And then against the Western Conference, we continue to find value with the Bulls. They're 15-7 against the spread against the Western Conference, including some wins actually against some pretty good teams there as well. And you look at what Zach LaVine does against the Western Conference. He comes out and he's been able to hang with guards like Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic, and put up some big numbers against impressive teams. I think you're going to be able to see him do that tonight again against Utah, who, as you mentioned earlier, may not have Rudy Gobert. And I'm happy to take a nice big spread at about 10 points before I even know if he's going to play or not.
Yeah, the key here is that the Bulls have been the number 1 3-point defense really since January, and the Jazz are the number 1 3-point shooting team. So they can limit that. They have been burned down low by productive centers recently, but if Gobert's not healthy, I mean, he's not a guy who's manufacturing his own offense anyway. I like the Bulls to be able to cover at home. So that's a great call by you. And my final game, another Eastern Conference team that's trying to prove their own. The Hawks now 8-0 under Nate McMillan. They go to the Clippers, who sort of live by inconsistency, 3-5 over their last 8 games. And they really just do an on-off thing where they're 11-15 against the spread after a win, 11-17 on a normal 1 day of rest. You could see them even relax a little bit more with the LeBron James injury, saying, okay, there's less urgency to really vie for that top spot in the West. This is a game I'm not only looking at the Hawks at plus 6.5. Also love a teaser if you can get Hawks plus 10. Spurs down to -1 or so. Love that combination. But I think we got to like the under here. Hawks are giving up a league low 99 points per game in those 8 games. They're number 2 in defensive rating. They're holding opponents to 41% field goal shooting. And they score a ton of points off free throws. They're second in that department. But the Clippers are top 10 denying free throws. The Clippers generally are much better defensively at home. They've gone under in 3 straight, and they are a very slow-paced team, right? They're 20th in pace. The Hawks are 29th in pace during that 8-game span, and Hawks 6-11 against the over when facing Western teams. That's a trend we've continued to hit on all year, and especially against competitive teams, right? Their last 2 against the Heat and the Lakers, those totals hit 174 and 193, which is obviously not even close to the 225 we have listed tonight.
Yeah, Nate McMillan's coming in and really coaching up the D there in Atlanta. It's pretty impressive. I feel really comfortable about that game, Nate. And just a quick hit for for you. I don't love betting on Boston, as we mentioned, but they are playing Memphis in a without Kemba tonight. Semi Ojale probably in the starting lineup. And as a result, I'm going to look at the total in that game. It's pretty low right now at about 221.5. But right now, I am going to throw a teaser out there for everybody. I really like it, at the very least, a two-teamer with the Indiana getting 10.5 there, as well as Chicago getting about the same 10 points. If you tease both those games up, get both teams still at about 15 points, which I feel great about at home for both those, or at least for Chicago especially. You can get that at about even money if you tease those up. I'm going to throw in the Grizzlies Boston under as well, get that up to about 226.5, and see if I can make about plus 200 almost on my money there. Just a little quick one.
Yeah, it makes sense. If the Celtics only scored 112 when Jaylen Brown hit 10 threes last night, can't imagine they have a much better offensive night on a back-to-back.
Yep.
Looking at a DFS perspective, you got to like that Bucks Pacers game for the reasons we mentioned. You can definitely play some cheaper Bucks who will step up without Giannis. Drew Holiday against both his brothers on the opposite side could have a nice game. I mentioned DiVincenzo. I think Bobby Portis sees a big rise in usage at that power forward slot. Justin Holiday on the other side is still too cheap. Karis LeVert's a reliable play. He hasn't yet blown up, but he's definitely reliable at his price tag. Another reliable guy for the Spurs, Keldon Johnson, in the mid-tier range. He's really eating. And then the Hornets, you can get cheaper guys like Miles Bridges, Cody Martin, maybe roll with Terry Rozier in a tournament, hoping that they step up now that LaMelo's out. I'm keeping an eye on Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton. Now, we'll be gunning for that Rookie of the Year. I don't know if Halliburton really goes outside of his offense to do much, but Anthony Edwards will definitely be taken off. But that shooting guard spot for me is Zach LaVine tonight. Still pretty cheap, especially if Gobert is limited. He can really have success attacking the rim. And the other stud I'm paying up for is Kawhi Leonard in a slow-paced, what we expect to be a close game down the stretch. The Clippers basically just give the ball to Kawhi and get out of the way.
Yeah, or he just takes it and does what he wants. 100%. So yeah, we're gonna have. I really like this slate tonight, man. We're gonna have some fun watching these games. There's a ton of injuries that keep happening. Pretty unfortunate, but make sure that you are staying on our videos each day so we can bring you some of that injury news. Make sure that you have the information you need before placing your money each night, especially this week as we look at a lot of stars that are sitting out. Remember, jump into those comments tonight. Let us know who you're betting on. Like and subscribe if you would, and we'll be back tomorrow with another video for you guys. As for tonight, happy betting.